evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?
Welcome back to the Denver Broncos franchise on Madden 22. I'm your host, longtime listener. Be sure to drop a like, hit the subscribe button, and comment below. We're going to have Week 10 action coming at you in this upcoming ball game here. Now, we're playing the Patriots, who, interestingly, have the second best run offense in the league, despite the fact that they've got Aaron Rodgers at the helm, and they throw it nearly 60% of the time. And while it's asking me, or suggesting, I guess, that I choose defend outside run as our strategy, I'm strongly considering changing that to defend the deep ball, because I'm actually a little bit more worried about Rodgers. I mean, you look at his numbers, a passer rating of 114.2 or 114.6 is second best in the league. They haven't had to throw it much, is my guess. They're 7-1, and that tells me that they get the lead, and then they just pound it and beat teams by just being able to hold on to the football. So we're going to try and stop the pass and hopefully keep them from getting the lead in the first place. They look like they're very good against the run, so we will stick with the blitz counter strategy for our offensive game plan. And then, ooh, look at this. James Webster, dev trait unlocked, and it is superstar. That is awesome, because that means we've got a 21-year-old stud defensive end that within a few years is going to be one of the best defensive ends in all of football and will continue to be really good for a long time. So that's awesome. The only other thing that I kind of want to see happen on this list down here is I want to see Will McPherson get a upgrade to the star dev trait. It'd be nice if Corey Bryant was also a superstar, but that's asking a lot. So anyway, let's go ahead and set our goals for this week. We're going to get some touchdown passes. Let's try and throw the football against this team and get after Aaron Rodgers. He's hard to sack because he's usually really good at getting rid of the ball quickly. So I'm not expecting to get those 3 sacks, but we will try and maybe be a little bit aggressive with some blitz calls to see if we can't either, get those sacks or at a minimum disrupt his rhythm and maybe get some incompletions or interception, that sort of thing. So Will Richardson gets an upgrade, not super exciting. And I think we should be ready to go at it here. We're at home against them. And actually, we've got 10 staff points. Let's go ahead and spend those prior to this week, because I think there's something that we can use them on that will actually impact this game, which is this one right down here. Tackling for corners goes up by 1. So that's that. Now everything else that we need to purchase is going to be a little bit more expensive going forward, but that's okay. Alright, so we're ready for Week 10 action. It's the Patriots who come into this one at 7-1 against the 5-3 Broncos in Denver. Let's head out to Mile High Stadium and see who gets this one in the win column. And here we go out to Denver, Colorado. It's the Patriots and the Broncos. Evan Milligan taking on the New England squad that is now led by quarterback Aaron Rodgers. So we're going to have our hands full as the Patriots have gone from one Hall of Fame quarterback to another within a span of just a couple of years. It's going to be Brett Morris at the helm. He's got 13 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Pushing 2,000 yards now on the season and off to a pretty good start as the Broncos QB. Now 2nd and 10, he's going to go down the sideline to Noah Fant. They rule it incomplete on the field, but Denver is actually going to challenge this. And as we look, that right foot looked like it was down, and he drags the left foot just in time, secures the catch, and this would be overturned,
making it 1st and 10 at the 46-yard line. But you see there that Minor's shaken up with a broken thumb and will miss the rest of the ball game. Now 3rd and 4 from the 40. Morris in trouble, trying to spin out of there, realizes he was under some serious pressure and just kind of throws that one away. And the Broncos now going to go for it on 4th down and 4. Morris looking deep, though, into coverage. That is incomplete, intended for Tim Patrick, and Morris just 1 for 5 on that drive. And New England going to take over with pretty good field position. And here comes Aaron Rodgers. He's just shy of 2,000 yards, got 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions so far on the year. It's going to be on the ground here. It's Pollard going around the edge. He's got 10 yards, and that's good for a 1st down. And now 3rd and 8 from the 37. It's going to be McPherson coming up the middle to get Aaron Rodgers, drops him for a sack back at the 44-yard line, setting up 4th down and 16 out of field goal range. It's Townsend on to punt. He's going to send it deep. Ryan going to let this one bounce, and it lands on the goal line for the touchback, and that's going to bring it out to the 20-yard line. Now 3rd and 6 on that ensuing drive. It's going to be intended for Cortland Sutton, but that's incomplete, and the Broncos would have to punt. Now 2nd and 6 on the ensuing drive. It's going to be Pollard outside again, a big pickup there, all the way down to the 24-yard line, and he's now got 30 yards on just 4 carries. Now 1st and 10 from the 24. They go play action. Aaron Rodgers, tons of time in the pocket. He's going to start to run, but then he's going to find his man down the middle. That is Bourne all the way down to the 7-yard line, setting up 1st and goal for the Patriots. Now on 1st and goal, it's going to be the handoff to Pollard, and he just walks in up the middle. Way too easy, and the Broncos trail 7-0 as the Patriots get on the board first. That drive taking just 4 plays to go 49 yards for the touchdown. Now on the ensuing drive, 2nd and 11. Morris looking to throw. Nice touch pass there as he drops it into Jerry Jeudy. Gets it out to the 35-yard line and a pickup of 13. Now 3rd and 6. It's going to be Stevenson on the ground. He is going to be short of the 1st down, however. Brought down at the 43, and the Broncos going to have to punt again. This one's going to land inside the 10, take a Denver bounce all the way down to the 3-yard line where they will down it. Now a long way to go if the Patriots are going to score, but that's a good start there as it's Harris up the middle. He's got 12 yards and now has 43 on just 6 carries. So the running game working for New England so far. And this time they go back to the passing game. It's Hunter Henry up the middle on the seam route there. And he's got it out to the 42. Now 3rd and 7. It's going to be Rodgers intended for Bourne there, but nice coverage by Patrick Surtain. Broken up, and the Patriots would punt. Now on the ensuing drive, 2nd down and 3. It's going to be Jerry Jeudy out to the 34-yard line. 1st and 10. Now 2nd and 3. They go outside with Stevenson. He's got the edge. Nice gain there as he's going to get it into New England territory down to the 47-yard line. Now 1st and 10 from the 37. On the ground again. This time Javonte Williams up the middle. He's got 11 yards and another 1st down. Now 2nd and 3. The give is to Stevenson up the middle. Nice run there. He's fighting for some extra yards. A pickup of 9 and makes it 1st and goal essentially from the 10-yard line. And on 2nd and 1, Javonte Williams to the outside, and he trots in for the touchdown. And we are going to be tied at 7 now with about 5 minutes to go in the first half. That drive taking 11 plays to go 87 yards. Now 2nd and 4, they go play action, and Rodgers to throw, but has it picked off by Patrick Surtain, who jumps the route, and he's going to take this all the way back for the pick 6. So just 2 plays after the touchdown by the Broncos offense. The defense gets him 1. Jones was shaken up on the play, but that is a massive turn of events there as Denver went from down 7 to up 14 in the stretch of about 35 seconds in the game. And now it's going to be an incomplete pass here on 3rd and long. And the Patriots are going to have to give the ball right back to the Broncos late in the half here. 3.5 minutes to go. And very good field position as Bryant thinks this one back to the 49-yard line on the New England side of the field. Now 2nd and 7. Morris looking to throw. He's going to hit Cortland Sutton on the hitch route. That's good for 13 yards. All the way down to the 33. Now 3rd down and 3 from the 27. They go up the middle with Williams, and he's got a 1st down to the 21-yard line, 1st and 10, and Mario Edwards shaken up on the play. Now 3rd down and 2. It's Cohen up the middle. He's going to have a nice run, and the Broncos now going to be set up with 1st and goal. They will take a timeout here to stop the clock late in this first half. Now 3rd down and goal. Morris looking to throw. It's Jerry Jeudy wide open for the score with just 9 seconds left in the half. and that would make it 21 unanswered for the Broncos to end the first half. They lead at 21-7. And the Patriots, were off to a really good start running the ball well, but things got away from them after that pick six, and they have not done much offensively, just 110 total yards of offense in the first half, and a turnover for a touchdown on top of that. Now we look at some scores around the league as the Bills take down the Chargers, who fall to 6-3 on the year. The Bills taking that one 42-28 in Buffalo. Now out to Indianapolis, where it's the Colts and the Saints, and the Colts win this one 31-17. Both of those teams now 3-6 on the year. It's Teddy Bridgewater at the helm in Indianapolis, went 19 for 24. 228 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And then down to South Beach, where it's the Dolphins and the Raiders. And the Raiders fall to 1-8 on the year as they get smoked on the road, 29-10. Derek Carr just 14 of 32, 142 yards, as the Silver and Black are not doing very well so far this season. Now second half action, New England going to go back to that ground game, and it's Harris with a nice pickup there out to the 38-yard line, and a great start to this Patriots second half. But now 3rd down and 2, it's going to be a false start before the play. Back them up 5 yards and make it 3rd and 7. But it's Aaron Rodgers at the helm, and he's going to roll out. Could have run with it, but instead throws it way back across the field into some traffic, but makes the completion to Jefferson. That's good for 32 yards and sets up a 1st and 10 at the 27. Now 2nd and 10, they go play action. It's going to be Jefferson again, wide open this time on the deep crossing route. He's got it down to the 8-yard line, setting up 1st and goal. Now it's going to be Aaron Rodgers to throw again. This time it's Bourne to the outside. Harris is shaken up on the play, but it's a quick touchdown for the Patriots to start the second half. 7 plays, 80 yards, just 2.5 minutes to get that done. And New England is back within 7. Now 3rd down and 2 on the ensuing drive, and Javonte Williams takes it up the middle all the way across the 45 to the 49-yard line. Now Morris down the middle, hits Jerry Jeudy on 2nd and 10. That's good for 17 yards down to the 18-yard line, and it's another 1st down. Now Morris looking to throw. It's Jeudy again, and he is going to reach for the goal line and has the touchdown. So Denver responds with a touchdown of their own as New England came roaring out in the second half and scores a touchdown. Denver wasting no time responding, as that took just 3 minutes and 41 seconds for them to go 71 yards. Now 2nd and 3, they go to Harris on the ground again. He's got 9 yards and another 1st down. Now 63 yards on just 9 carries for the veteran halfback. And now on the ground with him again, up the middle, breaks a tackle, just ran through Jerry Josie. Josie Jewell, and that's going to get it down to the 43-yard line. Now 1st and 10, they're going to go on the ground again. He's going to lose the football, and this time Jewell's there to recover. He's going to bring it back across midfield to the 48-yard line. A massive turnover there as the Broncos going to take over after the fumble. But now the booth is actually going to look at this one. We'll see if Harris was down before this ball comes loose, and it's that angle right there that you could see that left knee was just barely down before the ball starts to come loose. That angle right there, not a ton of help, but the bottom line is New England gets the football back, and now 3rd down and 3, they go up the middle, and it's Stevenson just barely able to pick up the 1st down, setting up a new set of downs at the 32, but now 3rd down and 10. Rodgers going deep, has a man open. He had a step on Surtain, but the throw is too long. It's incomplete, and New England has to settle for a field goal, so it's now 28-17. Here in the 3rd quarter. Late in the 3rd, it's Javonte Williams. 3rd down and 1 up the middle. He's got the 1st down out to the 42-yard line, and now 87 yards on the ground for him. Now it's 1st and 10. Morris looking to throw. He's going to go deep for Jeudy on the deep out. He makes a man miss and takes that one all the way to the New England 38. That would be the last play of the 3rd quarter. Now 3rd down and 5 from the 32. Morris going to go down the middle. He had Stevenson open, but overthrew him. And now the Broncos are going to have to settle for a field goal. But it's now a 2-touchdown differential here as we are in the 4th quarter. And New England going to have to try and move the ball quickly. And this is a good start right here. 1st and 10, down the middle, it's Jefferson. He's got it all the way to the 45-yard line on the Denver side of the field. And that is a great start to the drive. But now on the next play, it's McPherson coming right up the middle, just runs over the center and drops Rodgers for his second sack of the ball game. Now 2nd and 17. Rodgers looking to throw. He's going to try and roll out, but it's going to be the rookie Webster getting loose to drop him for a sack. That's a 5-yard loss. And now 3rd down and 22 coming up. Rodgers going to have to try and find somebody downfield. Has plenty of time. Starts to roll out, but he is going to be tracked down from behind by Draymond Jones. Loses the football. Bradley Chubb there to scoop it up. That would make it 1st and 10 for Denver at the 26-yard line. Just 8 minutes, 49 seconds to go. And a few plays later, it's going to be Stevenson to the outside, or Stevenson rather, takes it in for the score. That would make it a 3-score difference at 38 to 20 or 17, and that would be your final. As New England unable to get it going after that. That turnover there, another absolute dagger, as the turnovers really hurt New England in this ball game. But bottom line, their offense was not very good really through the air. They ran the ball okay, but when they were playing from behind, they had to try and air it out, and it just did not go very well. Just 161 passing yards. The Broncos ran the ball very well also. Didn't throw it much, but they didn't really need to, as they got the lead and hung on for the win in this one by a 3-touchdown margin. We'll take a look at the stats here. Neither quarterback very sharp in this one, as Rodgers was just 16 for 27, 193 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Morris 13 for 24, 133 yards, not very impressive, but he did have 2 touchdowns and no interceptions on the day. A nice day for Javonte Williams with 19 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown. You see there Damian Harris, 87 yards on 13 carries, a pretty solid day. Trey Stevenson, 77 yards on 10 carries, including a touchdown, so a nice day for him. Tariq Cohen had 44 yards on 6 touches. Tony Pollard, 26 yards on 4 touches and a touchdown, and then was hurt and missed a good portion of the ball game. We'll look at the receiving numbers, but there won't be a lot to report here, as it's Jerry Jeudy with 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jefferson had a nice day with 3 catches and 81 yards, but really outside of that, nobody with any very impressive numbers to make note of. Noah Fant, just 2 catches, 24 yards. Cortland Sutton, just 1 catch for 13 yards on the day. We look at the defensive side of things, as it's going to be Wilson leading all tacklers with 12. Bentley had 10. There's Josie Jewell and Will McPherson, both with 9 for the Broncos. McPherson had 2 sacks. O.J. Mudia got 1. Jones got 1. Webster got 1, as the Broncos were racking them up, and then did a good job protecting Brett Morris. Patrick Surtain had the interception, a couple of field goals apiece, both from 49 yards out. A bunch more extra points, though, for McManus, and that was your difference, really, was the touchdowns in this one. Tony Townsend, a few punts, didn't do a very good job, and then Gervasi, 2 punts for a net average of 40 yards. And the Broncos win this one 38-17 here in Denver.
So it's an impressive win for the Broncos. We get to 6-3 on the year, knocking off the Patriots. They fall to 7-2. The Chargers are 6-2 going into their game this week. So there's a chance that we might be tied for the lead in the division after the rest of the action here in Week 10. Let's go ahead and spend some staff points here, as we've got 21. And actually, as I think about it, like, I don't need this one, or this one. If we go over to player personnel, actually, let's go there first. I don't need that one for quarterbacks through free agency. So we're actually going to come back here to the offensive coordinator tab. And if we look down here, this one's 27 points. We don't have enough for that yet, so we're actually going to bank those points and hang on to them for till next week. And hopefully have enough then to purchase that upgrade. Now that said, we've got 2 new injuries to digest here. As Miners broke a thumb, he's going to be out for a month, and then DJ Jones, an abdominal tear, and he will miss 4 weeks as well. So a little bit of bad news there on the interior line on each side of the football, but we should be okay. Now we've got some tough games coming up with the Titans, Bills, and Cowboys. So that'll be interesting. But, Miners, being injured is not a huge deal because it's not a huge drop-off to our backup. And then with DJ Jones hurt, I think what happens in a lot of scenarios is we'll move Webster inside, and he becomes a defensive tackle in those nickel situations. And then against, or in the 3-4, if Jones is out, Spencer Johnston will step in and be the nose tackle. So not a big deal there either, really. All right, so Hamler, 24 years old. He's a 75 overall, normal dev trait. So he's going to get better for the next, 2 or 3 years, to the point where he'll be a pretty decent option for us if we continue using him as our slot receiver. Really, our fourth receiver is kind of the position that I want him in. And at that kind of role, $4 million a year is not that bad. It's maybe a little bit more than I would like to spend, but let's just kind of take these down a little bit each and see if he will accept this. He does. All right, so we've got him to through his age 27 season, which will be about the time that we'll probably look to move on from him. Micah Kaiser, 28 years old, 71 overall, normal dev trait. He's like fourth on our middle linebacker depth chart. We do not need to bring him back. So that's it for negotiations this week. Having beat the Patriots, we're now in simulate mode. So the only things that I need to do that are going to be a little bit noteworthy here between weeks. Yeah, we definitely want to try and stop Derrick Henry. So let's go defend outside run. He's actually really good at getting to the edge. And then against these guys, they're pretty good against the pass. But in a game that I'm going to simulate, I want to be a little bit more pass heavy. So we're going to go with blitz counter. I was kind of hoping that those couple of sacks for McPherson might unlock another breakout scenario, but as long as he's playing well, I don't care what his dev trait is, because ultimately, if we have to, we can go get another linebacker and just, hopefully get a hidden dev trait at some point to where we get a stud, and if we have to, maybe move McPherson to the outside at some point. We'll see. He needs to get a little bit better at pass coverage before we can consider that. All right, we've got player upgrade. Who's it going to be? Corey Bryant getting another one. He's developing fast to the point where I think he might have a superstar dev trait. And he was like a 4th round pick, if I recall correctly. So that would be huge. He'd turn into a pretty good player. We'll just keep going power for this guy. And Cortland Sutton. Now, Cortland Sutton is getting up there in age to the point where I'm not sure how much longer he will continue to progress. He's 27, so he's got a few more good years in him. So that's good. All right. We're not quite ready to simulate the game against the Titans because I need to see who we're going to list as our focus players. And to do that, first what I need to do is save our progress, because EA Sports needs to fix this. We'll save our progress, and then what I will do is now go look and see who we actually want to focus on. And we have to go here to do it. And when we do, this option will go away. So we'll have to reload our save file and pick the 3 that we decide on during this process. So, actually, change of tactics for the rest of this episode. I was thinking about simulating that game against the Titans, but we talked about not doing that and doing sort of a mid-season recap. So, what I want to do first here is let's find out who we want to try and focus on as far as potential 1st and 2nd round picks. So Mellow Hatchet, we don't know his key ratings. His physicals, he's got elite speed, elite acceleration and change of direction, good to great agility, and decent to solid strength. So he's the elusive type of running back that we're kind of looking to add into this mix to give us a little bit of balance between Williams and our next option. You know, we've got a decent option there with Stevenson, but Tariq Cohen is going to be leaving. I wouldn't mind adding a third guy here, and this might be a guy that we would consider, but really, I think we need to be looking at wideouts, and there are a bunch to pick from here. We've got a first rounder, or top 5 there, and then Eric Woodard, I don't think we will be able to get, because he'll be probably taken off the board before we have a chance. He's got D for catching traffic anyway. His physicals are pretty good, and I like his awareness. His spectacular catch is pretty good. He can break tackles, but he's only 5'11", and if I have a guy like that, they better be like elite speed and agility kind of things where they can get open, and I don't think he's that kind of guy. So if you can't use your speed to get open, you better be able to use your body to make catches. Let's look at Kevin Archer. He's 6 foot 183, 23 years old, out of Oklahoma. B for deep route. His physicals are pretty good. He's got a bunch of elites, great speed, and good strength. And then here, B's all the way down that left-hand side is pretty good info. Spectacular catch is A. He's decent at breaking tackles. So this is a pretty good possibility. I don't know if he'll be there deep enough in the first round for us to have a chance to get him. So let's look a little bit farther down and see what else is down here. So 6'1", so he's tall but not very muscular at 177 pounds. And B for release is good. Let's see what kind of speed he's got. Elite. So this dude is a burner. And those physicals are really impressive. He could be a stud. How old was he? 23 years old. C awareness. I don't know enough about his ability to catch footballs to really lock in on him, but I would actually put him ahead of Archer simply because I like his physicals and he's farther down the draft board. Chauncey Gold. What you got, dude? 5'11", 183. He can't catch in traffic, and at that size, you're probably going to be preferably a slot guy, and if you can't catch in traffic, I don't know how good that would be. He does have pretty good physicals for the most part. And what I see there is acceptable, but I still think Hubbard is the leader in the clubhouse. So let's say Max Hubbard. There's no point in me highlighting any of these guys because I'm going to have to come back in and do it in a second anyway when we reload the file. So Max Hubbard is the priority at the moment. I don't know enough about this guy yet. He's 6'5", 222, has great speed, elite jumping, strength, change of direction. So his physicals are actually really impressive considering how big he is. And he's 21. Medium route running has work to do. B awareness. I think this is a guy that could end up being really good depending on the dev trait. But those physicals, along with his size, could be a really good replacement to Tim Patrick. So let's actually highlight both of them for now. And then we'll take a look at Chester Crompton as the last option here at wideout. So B catching traffic, C release, 6'1", 183, elite speed, pretty good agility and such. So those are all pretty good with the exception of strength maybe, but that's okay. B injury, B carrying, B catching traffic, C release. That's a maybe, but I like the other two guys a little bit better based on what we know. Dang, there are two more guys down here to even consider. So a lot of wide receivers on the board. 6'5", 235, 21-year-old out of Texas. Great speed, elite strength, and the dude can jump. So if he has good route running ability, He's a pretty good run blocker. I don't know enough about his route running yet, but again, he's got size, and then his speed is pretty good, but that strength and jumping tells me he's going to be able to win those 50-50 balls. And given that that's the kind of receiver that I like, let's grab him and take Hubbard off the board. I might regret that, but I don't know that Hubbard will even be there. These two guys probably will be. We'll look at Cole Campbell here just in case he's a rock star. I don't like anything that I see right there. He's got elite speed, but these skills scare me, and he's a D for injury, so he's an absolute hard no. All right, we've got a couple of receivers. Let's go over here. I think we're going to highlight Cassius Bowden. If you remember this guy, this is the one that they gave us the prospect, highlight on. He's 6'3", 268, so that's pretty big, frankly. He's not real tall, but he's going to have some strength to him, more than likely, at 268 pounds, or at least be hard to throw around. Now, A for catching and A for run blocking, I love. His strength is okay. His speed is what I love. And he's got great change of direction. He's got really good agility. His acceleration maybe has a little bit of work to do. But with that top end speed, if I can get him the ball, he's going to be able to make some plays. And he's got A, awareness, and B, for a stiff arm. Like, what we know about this guy is all very impressive. So that's a guy that we might look to get in the second round and beef up our, stockpile of tight ends. I'm trying to think what else we need to try and address. You know what? Let's just highlight those three guys, wide out and tight end. Because if we go back and look at our scouts, our national scout, we actually have it set for a D tackle. Oh, I need a corner too. Dang it. I'm way off base looking at... I do want a wide out because Tim Patrick's getting up there in age. So, but this also tells me with two corner expertise guys and a D tackle guy, let's go look at corner and D tackle. We'll pick one of those receivers, the tight end, and then let's find a defensive tackle. So it's Bowden at tight end. Let's look at let's look at the age of these guys. Leonard is 22. Not that it's a huge deal, frankly. This guy's 21. That jumping and strength, I don't know. I think the other guy is probably more likely. They're probably both going to be there late in the first round. So we might as well take the guy that we think is going to be better, and it might be this dude. 6'5", 222. His physicals are better, and I know that he's got B awareness. So let's go with Ralph Leonard at wideout, Bowden at tight end. Let's see what's out there for D tackles. This guy will probably be off the board. This guy will probably be off the board as well, but let's just look in case we think he's going to be a stud. 6'6", 306, B for block shedding, C finesse moves. He can tackle. He's 23 years old. He's got elite speed and strength, good acceleration, elite agility, great change of direction. Those are all pretty good physicals, and I kind of like what I see here as well. So that's a possibility. What about Ezekiel Drayton? F for tackling. If you have an F showing, I'm probably not going to take you. He does have elite strength, but those physicals are not as good as the guy in front of him. C awareness. Like, I'm not as impressed with this guy as I am the other dude, so let's keep Ricard in mind as a possibility, but let's look at corner and see what's out here. Probably not going to get this guy. Although, you know what? Let's just look. If it's like I don't like anything of what I see, potentially going late in the first round, maybe we trade up and get a guy. But C for both of his coverage ratings, you better have crazy good physicals. The change of direction worries me a little bit there, but he does have good speed. B awareness. That's a maybe. Let's look at these other two and see if anybody looks like they might be more promising. Xavier Vincent, C press, elite speed, change of direction, and acceleration. His agility is okay. He can jump. His strength is maybe a little bit of an issue. He's only 5'9", but he does have really good jumping to where he's going to struggle against physical, tall wideouts, but otherwise he might be okay. A block shedding, A hit power, B for injury. He's a maybe. Let's look at this last first round projection and see what we think. B, zone coverage. He's 6'3", so I like the height. Speed might be a little bit of an issue, but he's strong and has otherwise pretty good quickness from the looks of things. A block shedding, A tackle, C play recognition. I kind of like this guy simply because he's got pretty decent physicals. The scouting report, tells me that he's going to be decent in coverage, and he's 6'3". So let's say Broderick Borden goes to the top of our corner board for right now, but I also want to look at these couple of second or third round guys in case there are some sleepers in here. I don't like that. So let's just move on. Plus he's 24. I usually don't pay much attention to age, except for at skill positions like corner, halfback, wide out. Another D for zone coverage. If I'm looking for a long-term answer at corner, I don't want to know that you're not very good at something right off the bat. D for man coverage on that guy. 2 more to go here. D catching, C press. If you can't catch it, that's alright. His speed is a joke. So he's a no. Last but not least, Nick Kendricks from Iowa State. He's 23, 6 foot. Man coverage is okay. He can press, but he doesn't have very good speed. So at corner, there's really only one option that we're even remotely interested in as far as a first or second round pick, and it's Broderick Borden. So we'll highlight him. We will highlight Ricard, I think. And then let's highlight Leonard and not worry about the tight end. If we get the tight end in the second round, great. If we don't, it's not a big deal. Alright, so I got to reload the save file, and we'll be right back to finish this up. Alright, so we've gone back, reloaded the screen, came back in, selected our scouts. I actually forgot to start, the scouting focus players. I forgot to start the recording for that process, but not a big deal. What I have done since then is the tedious process of combing down through each position and basically highlighting any player that we think we might consider drafting this year in the upcoming draft. And again, keep in mind that some of them we just kind of ignored, like this guy, and this guy. Didn't even bother looking at because we're not taking a quarterback in the first round or two. If we take one, it's going to be in the late rounds. This is the only one that we highlighted. He doesn't have necessarily the greatest accuracy, but he's 21 years old, out of Purdue. He's got really good speed and agility and such, so this is the kind of guy that maybe can make some plays with his legs, and he's got a really strong arm. And as a day 3 guy, even if he's not really well polished with his throwing accuracy, he could be okay as a backup for several years. So we'll keep him on the board. Now at running back, there's Mellow Hatchet. I'm not likely to take a running back in the first round, but sometimes they do slip into the second rounds or even farther. So we'll look at these guys just to make sure that if they're there and it's a steal, we take them. This guy's got elite speed, change of direction, and acceleration, and even jumping. Not that we really care all that much about that, but that tells me he's an athlete. He's even got great agility, and the strength is just kind of like okay, but for a guy that is, 5'11", I don't expect you to be the strongest in the world. And then on this page, the A juke move I really like, because with his kind of speed, if he can get to the edge and then make a man miss by juking, he could end up being really good. And I'll bet you with those kind of physicals, there's a high likelihood of him having that hidden dev trait that is, pretty highly sought after. Reggie Allen, the next guy down, is 5'11", 195. He's left-handed, not that that should matter too much. He's also got really good speed, change of direction, and acceleration. So very similar physicals to the last guy we looked at. And then on this page, we don't have a ton that really helps us. But what I see is that he's okay at catching in traffic and running those medium routes. So he might be a decent option as a receiving back. But again, we wouldn't be drafting this guy probably until at least the 3rd round, because I've got other priorities ahead of him. Then farther down the board here, as you can see, we didn't find really anybody that we like, with a couple of exceptions. We'll take a look here at Amari Arrington. He's 202 pounds, 6 foot, 21-year-old out of Auburn. His physicals are just kind of okay across the board, but a day 3 talent, that's kind of about what you would expect. And then he's got decent things showing here as far as maybe his ability to catch passes. So he might be a steal late in the draft, and a guy worth keeping an eye on. And then last but not least is Austin Phillips. He's 228 pounds out of Oklahoma. He's got A for breaking tackles. And then he's got elite strength. Everything else about this guy we really just don't like. What I'm thinking, though, is I'm curious if we might get lucky with a guy like this and him be good at run blocking to where we could turn him into a fullback. Because he's kind of built like one anyway. He's maybe a little bit tall for a fullback at 6 foot, but that's the only thing that guy has as far as redeeming qualities, is like if you give him the ball going up the middle, he's running somebody over, period. Not that we really need a fullback, but he could be a power back kind of guy that if Javonte Williams is at the end of his rope and moves on and we've got a really good elusive back, by that time that dude could end up being like a 73 as a power back, and we're only using him in short yardage situations anyway, and there's some value in that. All right, at wideout, Max Hubbard. We looked at this guy earlier. He's only 6'1", out of Georgia, 23 years old. He's got B for release, which can help, especially when you've got elite speed and acceleration. If you can get around a guy and run that deep route, we might be able to hit you. Now, we don't know much of his other route running abilities, but we see a bunch of A's and B's here, and that guy could have some, top talent kind of potential at wideout. Then there's Ralph Leonard. We should be getting a lot more information about this guy because we targeted him as one of our key prospects. 6'5", 222 out of Vanderbilt. He's got elite jumping and strength, great speed, elite change of direction, and even pretty good agility. The acceleration might be a little bit of a concern, but I think this guy could end up being pretty good. We don't like that D for the medium route running, but we'll see. We should end up learning more about that guy, and maybe he is the one that we end up taking with that first round pick. Then there's Glenn Monk, another kind of big body guy, 6'5", 235 out of Texas. He's only 21. He's got elite jumping and strength, great speed, great change of direction, and then just kind of decent on the acceleration and agility. So those are the concerns with both of these guys. We don't know anything about this guy's route running, though. So that's the one challenge here. Don't even know his release. So there's that. If we look farther down, Leon Kelly. Now, this is a 3rd or 4th round guy. I would like to get a wideout before this, but if we can't, then we need to know what else is out there. He's 5'11", 184. C for release is just okay, but we're talking 3rd or 4th round here, so keep that in mind. Elite speed, acceleration, and agility. So even though that release is just decent, if he can get off the line of scrimmage and just use that speed, he's going to run away from guys to get open. Now, I don't like the D awareness, but at minimum, with his speed and acceleration and agility, plus that A kick return rating, he could end up getting some XP by being our kick returner for a while early in his career. And in the process, we use those upgrades to get him better at running routes. So that's kind of the thought process with a guy like that. And I think this is the last one down here. Yeah, Manny Stinson. Hang on, I'm fighting off a sneeze, dang it. Deep route is A. Catching C is a little bit of a concern, but might still be all right. For a pick this late in the draft, 6 foot, 188. And then we look at his physicals. He's got elite speed, the agility, and those are actually pretty good up at the top. So the physicals are actually not that bad. We just don't know a ton here, but he's got A for that deep route. You combine that with elite speed, and look out, baby. So you get a guy like that in the 6th or 7th round, and maybe you get a steal. All right, tight end. This is a really deep tight end class, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. The top guy on the board is Cole Davis. If I remember correctly, in the latest mock draft, he was supposed to go like 20th or somewhere in that neighborhood. A catch in traffic, A deep route. He's 6'3", 250. And you see his physicals, elite speed, change of direction, and acceleration, and he's got great agility, elite jumping, and good strength. So this guy could be a stud. We know that the B medium route and A deep route are both showing, and an A and B plus the A catching traffic. Like this guy, if he goes late in the 1st round, that could be one of the best picks of the draft when it's all said and done. Now, Ryan Gentry is the next one behind him, 6'2", 257. He's got A for deep route ability. And then look at his physicals. Elite. All the way top to bottom. That's insane. He's got some run blocking finesse as well. The C short route is not the greatest, but it's not that bad. So we'll see how he does. But that one is an absolute, potential gem as well. Now back to the board, there's Lamar Stewart, a 2nd or 3rd round guy, and he's projected ahead of Cassius Bowden, who you remember we've already looked at. And this guy has some redeeming qualities. 6'4", 240, playing at Ohio State. B for catching traffic. The physicals are pretty good. I mean, he's got great speed, elite strength. Speed, jumping, agility, all very good. So I think this guy could end up being a pretty good all-around tight end. He can catch in traffic. The spectacular catch is okay. Like, those there are just kind of okay. But he's a guy that maybe we could consider like with a 3rd round pick if, like, for example, we get to late 2nd round and Cassius Bowden is already off the board. We'll take one more look at him just to remind you what we got here. A catching, A run block, which I love, and he's 238 pounds. His physicals at that kind of build with elite jumping and speed, this guy could be really good. For a 2nd or 3rd round pick and all A's or B's showing right here, I am shocked that this guy is not projected as a 1st or 2nd rounder, and we'll probably see him go off the board earlier than what they're projecting from the onset. Now, John Childs, B catching traffic, B catching. He's 6'6", 275, so he's a big dude, and he's got elite strength. The speed isn't the greatest, and the agility doesn't look like it's all that great. But this is a guy that maybe turns into a decent tight end as more of a possession guy. He doesn't have the greatest run blocking finesse, so maybe that's a little bit of an issue. If we're taking a guy like that, though, in about the 4th round, maybe even later, I think that that's still a pretty good pick. Peter Thomas, projected as a day 3 guy. He's got C and C for deep route and run block. He's 238, 6'3". He's got great speed, strength. The agility's pretty good. So he's just a maybe and a guy that, when it gets down late into the draft, if we haven't already picked a tight end and he's there, maybe he's our guy, just to give us a little bit of depth, because we're still good at tight end already. It's just that this class is so deep that I feel like taking one is not a bad idea. Deep route here is not the greatest, obviously. 266 though, and he's got elite speed and acceleration, and then the agility is actually pretty good as well. So he's a guy that his physicals are impressive, even though he's not, from what we can tell, a very polished pass route runner. But he's got good pass blocking, which tells me that maybe he's also got good run blocking, which I care about even more. So we're going to keep him on the board for a potential late round pick. Left tackle. Now, see, this guy is the 3rd one on the board, and he's projected to go 1st or 2nd round. He's got B's for awareness, impact block, and run block. He's only 21 years old, and his physicals are extremely impressive, with the exception of the strength. But with all of those other ones being that good, if his strength is like 32 or 33 bench reps, I could deal with this guy playing tackle for us. Now, stamina is not the greatest, but everything else we know about this guy looks pretty good. And if he's got really good like pass block and run block finesse to go with his quickness and athleticism, he can end up being pretty darn good. That is it for potential left tackles that we would consider. At left guard, there's only one guy that we would consider, Carrie Mullen. He's 21 years old, playing at Penn State. B for awareness and pass block. Physicals are pretty good. He's got elite speed. The strength is the one concern here, but everything else is acceptable or like above acceptable. I don't care too much about lead block. However, at guard, if you're pulling and you're the one that's, pulling and basically trying to smash the dude just ahead of the ball carrier, that F is maybe a little bit of an issue. But if that's the only thing that you're not good at, I could live with that. At center, this guy, he's projected 3rd or 4th round, and this happens a lot with centers, but he is the 1st center on the board, so if there's a team that needs one, this guy's probably going in the early 3rd or maybe even 2nd round. A, awareness, and impact block are the key ratings that we can see. His physicals aren't the greatest, but they're not terrible, and good strength at center sometimes is not a huge issue, but maybe it would be against a team that runs a 3-4 with a monster at nose tackle. That could be a problem. But what we see here is all very impressive. A's and B's, he's got some finesse, and the run block power being a B, despite his potential lack of strength, tells me that he's just a baller. So we left him on the board as a maybe. If he's there late, we've got a good center, but if you got a guy that's a steal and you don't find anybody else that you're looking for or like at that point in the draft, just take the best player and trade somebody if you have to. All right, right guard. Do we have anybody down here? No. So there's just one here as well. He's projected as a 2nd or 3rd rounder. We've got 2 good guards, so this is, again, a pretty unlikely pick. We don't know any of his key ratings, but his physicals are pretty solid. He's got some quickness. The speed isn't that great, but he's got pretty good strength, and the agility is there to where I'm not super worried about the speed, because how's he going to use it at guard? Again, lead block maybe a little bit of an issue, but looks to be maybe a decent run blocker. If he's there in the late 3rd or probably would have to be the 4th round before I would consider a guy like that, but he's on the board nonetheless. At right tackle, I can't really... Let me actually go back and look at our roster, because I can't remember what our situation is at right tackle. Who did we pick up to play that position? Do we have somebody for a couple years? Because I'm just not really sure why I don't have anybody focused on going and finding me an offensive tackle from a scouting perspective. So at left tackle, it's Bowles, and then this guy's Junk. And Bowles is 31, so we're not going to have him forever. At right tackle, it's Dillard, and then Richardson. How long do we have Dillard? Do we have him for 2 years, and that's why we don't have anybody highlighted there? So let's go contract. Yeah, so we have him next year as well. So he would be the starter. Let me actually look at Will Richardson, because if he's not coming back next year, then that's where I could get away. Yeah, so he might be gone. And if that's the case, then maybe we just draft somebody to become the heir to the throne at right tackle. But again, it would probably need to be like a 2nd or 3rd rounder, because I'm not using my 1st round pick on a guy I know is going to be a backup this year. Let's see here. Where were we? Right tackle. All right, let's go back in and actually show you these guys. So Rajon McMillan. B pass block. He's 6'5", 321. He's got elite speed and strength, good change of direction. The acceleration's a little iffy, but he's got pretty good agility. So he's athletic and he's strong, and all A's and B's here is pretty darn impressive. That's usually a good sign that there's going to be a pretty well-polished player right out of college. And then as you can see here, there are a bunch of tackles that I highlighted as maybes. I'm not going to go through all of them, except for this guy, just because his name is John Wayne. If we don't get a tackle with like that 2nd round pick, or maybe as far down as 3rd round where I think they could be a starter, this is a guy we might consider. We don't know much about his key ratings, but he's got pretty good physicals. The worst one he's got is jumping, which I don't care about, and then everything else is either, great or elite, which is pretty good for a day 3 projection. I don't like that the pass block power is showing as an F, because I need you to be a pretty good pass blocker if you're going to play tackle. However, this is the kind of guy that if he's a really good run blocker and a even remotely decent pass blocker, I might consider moving him to guard and seeing if he's usable at that position. Because on the interior line, I'm not worried quite as much about your pass blocking, but that's that. So that was tackle. And again, there were a bunch of them there, so there's a pretty good chance we'll take one, but just not sure exactly when. We don't really need a left end, but it's probably not a bad idea to look at the ones down the board as options for depth, because at the end of the season, we'll kind of know which positions we'll need to draft backups to kind of fill for guys leaving for free agency. This guy's got decent physicals. Again, it's a day 3 projection, so you're not going to get anything special here, but what we see about him is not that bad. So there's that. Then we've got BJ Anthony. D, block shedding is not that impressive, but the guy can tackle. He's 269 pounds and has elite speed and agility, and the rest of his physicals are good, so maybe we look at what he does in the combine and the pro day, and if he's impressive in that regard, he's a guy that maybe we think we could get just for his athleticism to add as a depth option. But he doesn't look like he's going to be very well polished straight out of college. Right end, I don't think there was anybody. Yeah, there's nobody at right end. Actually, here we go. Cram it up your cram hole floor. So if we look at this dude, he's projected to go late in the draft. He's got B for block shedding. The finesse moves are not very impressive. but he's got decent strength, and I like the acceleration. It's basically we picked this guy because he's got good block shedding and hit power, and his name is LaFleur. And if you haven't seen Dodgeball, you need to. All right, defensive tackle. Keon Poole, who's projected to go as the top D tackle, is injury prone, so we didn't even highlight him. Then we've got Ricard, who we are focusing on him with one of our scouting targets or whatever. So he can tackle. He's got good block shedding. The finesse moves have a little bit of room for improvement. His physicals are very impressive, though. The speed and strength and the agility are all top notch. Acceleration is okay. He's got good change of direction. So I like the ability for him to get off the block and pursue and use that speed to go make tackles. The one concern is the acceleration, really, but if he's there in the first round, we may consider him. We looked at Ezekiel Drayton earlier and then picked what's-his-face, who we just looked at as the better option. The one thing I don't like about him, obviously, is that F for tackling, but his physicals are pretty solid. The elite strength and speed just gives you the ability to make plays. He's not going to have any trouble with injuries. He's got good play recognition, decent awareness. I'd like to know any of his power move, block move, or finesse move or block shedding ratings before we draft a guy like this, especially if it's a first-round pick. But he's worth keeping on the board for now. Felix Finley, second or third round projection, coming out of Alabama, 304 pounds, B power moves, C tackling. C tackling is not a huge nuisance at defensive tackle, but it is a little bit of a concern. Strength not being at least great concerns me a little bit, but everything else there is good enough. He's got great play recognition. We'll just have to see about a guy like that. But again, that's probably somebody we would look for in the third round if he's there. Kendrick Bass, playing at Penn State. What you got? A, finesse moves. He's not a very good tackler, but he's got really good speed and quickness, and the A finesse moves, that could add a lot of value as a pass rusher. So he stays on the board as a potential pick for the third or fourth round at defensive tackle. And then we've got Christopher Scarborough, D tackle out of Houston. B block shedding, B tackling. He's a little bit undersized for a D tackle, 296 pounds, but that's not that big of a deal. He's got good strength. Basically, his physicals are all just kind of what we would say would be average for the NFL. But his skills are pretty solid. B's, an A, and one C being awareness, which at D tackle was maybe not that big of a deal. So he could be a good option for us, maybe in that fourth round time frame. John Rodgers out of Alabama. C block shedding. He's got pretty good physicals as well. A bunch of good and great, which is acceptable, especially late in the draft. He's got really good play recognition. Might be a little bit of an injury concern, but we're talking day 3 here. You get what you get. You're just kind of hoping that maybe you get lucky and get a hidden dev trait down there, and they turn into a good player in 4 or 5 years. Josh Ward, the only left outside linebacker I think we're even considering. He's got B pursuit. He's 6'4", 245. Great speed. His strength is a little bit of a concern, but his athleticism could be okay. I probably wouldn't draft this guy until at least the 4th round, if not the 5th. Because there's probably somebody that we would like better than him in that range. But we will see. And is there anybody else down here? No. Middle linebacker, TJ Dobson. Projected to go in the 1st round. We don't know any of his key ratings. He's got really good physicals. A bunch of elites. The strength is impressive. Agility is okay. B awareness. And then all C's beyond that, but we don't know enough about the other stuff to really make a good decision on him. He would be a guy that I wouldn't take until the 2nd round anyway. because middle linebacker is not my priority. Same thing here. Good on those couple of key ratings that we see. The physicals look good, and his skills are all really impressive. That's a guy that if he's there in the second round, we might take him, but we got to think about what positions we need first. And guys like that, even though we really want them, we got to be smart about it. Speed pursuit, physicals are pretty solid. The speed and the strength are both really good. Everything else is okay. And then the skills here also pretty impressive from what we can see. So there might be some middle linebackers going off the board in the late first, early second round from what we can see there. All right, Poindexter, what do you got, dude? We don't know the key ratings. He's only 5'11", but he's got really good speed. The physicals are pretty good across the board. Strength may be a little bit of an issue, but these are all pretty impressive. So he stays on the board as maybe a third-round pick, should we get to that point. But like I said, I don't need a middle linebacker, but if there's a stud there and he looks like the best pick for us at the time, we'll do it. Bubba Van Buren's got an awesome name. He'd be like a 6th or 7th round kind of pick, and his physicals are actually not that bad. And the only thing that concerns me really here is his awareness. But the guy can tackle. He's got decent play recognition. He'll be okay getting off of blocks. So, again, that's a late round pick that will be worth looking at. Jason Skinner, right outside linebacker, projected 2nd or 3rd round. Never misses tackles. Might have issues shedding blocks, but he's got really good physicals. I mean, elite, and then good strength. So, and you see the A, awareness, and B, for man coverage. If that guy is there in the late 3rd round, he'd be hard for me to ignore, because the guy is going to make plays with that kind of athleticism and the ability to cover in the pass protection schemes. That could be a dangerous weapon for us. Dion Coates, good pursuit. The physicals are all right. And those are just kind of like, yeah, but again, it's a day 3 talent. All right, let's move along to, actually, one more here. Clayton Stringer. This would be a late round pick. He can pursue, which is good. His physicals are actually not that bad. And then when we see the skills, there's some there that give him some redeeming qualities, perhaps. So, all right, now is where we got to really get focused here. Because at corner, if we're going to take one, I'd like for it to be in the 1st round. Kamani Webster would be probably the first one coming off the board, and his coverage skills don't appear to be the greatest at C for both of them, but the guy has elite speed, acceleration, and agility. Change of direction is a little bit of an issue, to where that might be where that combined with his C on coverage could be an issue, but he's also got pretty good strength. So, maybe he's good. If he's got a really good press rating, he might be all right, but he's got B, awareness, and A, block shedding. So that's a maybe, but he'd have to be there late in the 1st round, and I don't know that he's going to be, considering he's the top-rated cornerback on the board. And then there was Xavier Vincent. C for press is all we know. He's only 5'9", but he does have really good athleticism, and he can jump. Strength is about the only concern, but at corner that doesn't bother me too much. And then you also see that he can hit, and he's got good block shedding. So, the reality is he might even be an asset coming off the edge, like out of the nickel, or even just helping in the run game, just because of his awareness and the speed or whatever. So, Bowden is the guy that I think is the most likely pick for us. If he's the 3rd one off the board, that's likely to be late in the 1st round. He's got B for zone coverage, which I like. His physicals aren't the greatest, but none of them are like absolute deal breakers. that speed is the one thing that concerns me because that probably puts him in like the high 80s. But that's not the end of the world. He's got good ratings here, though. The block shedding and the tackling are both very impressive. Play recognition is okay, and the zone coverage is good. So I'd be totally fine taking a guy like that in the first round. The concern would be I'm not sure that he's going to give us a hidden dev trait, and that would upset me. You get a first-round pick, especially if they're only like a 71 overall. If they're a normal dev trait, that's kind of a bust. J.J. Buckley, B for press coverage is all we know on the key ratings. He's only 5'9", and he's not the greatest jumper, so he's a guy that we would probably want to stick against some smaller receivers like slot guys and maybe just have him be really good covering those kind of receivers. His physicals are okay, and then his skills are all pretty decent as well. And he's projected as a third or fourth rounder. And that's where, like, say in the first round I take a wide out, and then in the second round I take a tight end. If this guy is there in the third round, we scoop him up, and hopefully he's good enough to play some, as like a dime back or something along those lines. But anyway, Derek, Cameron, C-man coverage. This is a day 3 guy, so keep that in mind. He's only 5'10". He's got decent speed. The acceleration is really good. The rest of the physicals are just kind of like, yeah, but I don't like that change of direction. Because sometimes you see a guy like that with bad change of direction, and it looks like they're injured because they're just sluggish anytime you try and shift from going one way to another. But all of those core attributes are actually just kind of okay. And for a late round pick, it's acceptable. I think that's it for corners. Yeah. Now, we highlighted some free safeties, and we've got Justin Simmons, and we've got a good backup behind him, I think Johnson, but I can't remember. But anyway, we're looking at these guys because if they're there and I think they're going to be a stud, we're going to take them. Now, the one thing I don't like about this guy is the C for zone coverage, because as a free safety, that's a lot of times what I'm going to have you doing. But he's got really good speed, agility, change of direction, strength. This guy could be a pretty good playmaker. He can hit hard, and his block shedding is okay. Like, I don't know enough about him to go and draft him like in the second round, but if he's there in the third, yeah. He's not likely to be because he's the best free safety apparently on the board. But anyway, we'll look at these guys in case someone's there and the pick makes sense. Tyler Terrell, we'll say. 6'2", 209. He can tackle. He's got pretty good physicals across the board. I like that. And then here, all A's and B's. A, pursuit. B, tackling. B, catching. That guy could be a steal that late in the draft. If he goes in the second round, I think he is the best free safety available, and probably worth a first-round pick or at least an early second. Jason Hoover, we don't know the key ratings, but the guy is 6'4". Why do I have him highlighted? Because his physicals are junk. What's the deal here? Oh, it's because of all these A's and B's. So this is a guy that, if he's there like in the 5th round, maybe we would take him. He's probably like a high 60s, but like balanced because of his different skills where he's just polished at those certain, aspects of the game. So anyway, how about Antonio Haynes? C and C. This is a late round pick at best. The physicals are just kind of okay. The skills are respectable. I'm not likely to pick a guy like that unless they're there like in the 6th or 7th round. Now, strong safety. I don't know why we're getting to see so much about strong safeties. That must have been one of my key scouting focuses or whatever. But anyway, we're learning a lot about these guys. And as we kind of look down through here, there's not a lot deep in the draft class that I would consider, but there are 2 up here at the top that look like they're going to be pretty darn good. And the strong safety that we have, we brought in for a couple of years. So this would be unlikely unless we decide to just take this guy and then make a trade or something. But anyway, A for hit power. The tackling is a little bit of a concern. The B zone coverage I really like, and he's 6'2", 213 pounds, so he's pretty big. And those physicals are pretty darn impressive. So I kind of like this guy. Think that he could be a hidden dev trait, and we see a lot of A's and B's on this core attributes page. So there's potential there. And then the next one down is Kamani Webster. And what we see here, again, B for zone coverage, which I like because that's a lot of what our safeties are going to end up doing. He's only 5'10", but he's 214 pounds, 21 years old, and those physicals are really impressive. The strength is a little bit of an issue, but he's a little bit undersized, so that's kind of understandable. And if we look at his jumping, the dude can jump. So just because he's a little bit short at 5'10", he might be able to make up for some of it with his athleticism. So A, awareness, A, catching. The play recognition has room for improvement, but the coverage that we can see is really good, and I don't care about finesse moves, and I really don't even care that much about stamina, to be quite honest. So that is a look at the draft class for this year's upcoming draft. And I think that there's a lot of potential up and down that board. And now that I've really done some research and kind of try to get a little bit more strategic with it, I think we'll end up having a pretty good overall draft class instead of just kind of winging it. Those late round picks a lot of time end up not being very fruitful. But anyway, let's now just take a look at the stats at this point in the season, both individually and for the team. You know, Brett Morris has been okay so far this year. The QB rating at 98.3 is not the greatest. He's been sacked 15 times, 5 interceptions, 15 touchdowns. He's doing a good job managing the game. I want to see a little bit better job getting rid of the ball in scenarios where he's under pressure and making those accurate throws, because that's where a lot of times he just makes, you know, a bad throw when a guy's wide open, and that's probably been his Achilles heel. Javonte Williams having a pretty good year, 4.7 yards a carry, averaging 71 yards a game, and he's got 5 touchdowns. Cohen at 7.2 yards a carry is really good, but a lot of times when he runs the ball, and same thing with Stevenson, it's like a 3rd and 7 situation, and I come out looking to pass it, and the defense comes out just basically spread wide open to where I just audible and run it up the middle and get 9 or 10 yards because there's just no one there to tackle me. So that's what is driving a lot of that, and it's in games that I'm controlling almost exclusively. 1 fumble for Stevenson at this point in the season. If that's the only time he fumbles all year, I'll take it, but you fumble more than once, you start to make me nervous a little bit. Receiving. Jerry Jeudy having a decent year. I'd like to see the yards and the receptions come up for both of these guys. Noah Fant is having a pretty good year, but again, we're not racking up a ton of yards through the air, and I think that's just on Brett Morris. We got to figure out ways to get the ball downfield. But as long as we're winning, I don't care that much. Can we find drops? I don't usually look at it. It's not even on here, which is stupid considering they are receivers, and that's kind of an important statistic. Where's Albert O? Yeah, just 6 catches, 47 yards. He just continues to be a non-factor. It's just hard for me to incorporate a second tight end a lot of times, unless I get into a game where, for whatever reason, I just can't get the ball to my wideouts and end up start running drag routes constantly with tight ends, which kind of gets old after a while. McPherson leading the team in tackles, 75, which puts him on pace for about 125 or 130, which is pretty good. He might even end up with more than that. So 8 tackles for a loss is really good. He's got 6 sacks, which is really impressive coming from middle linebacker, especially as a rookie. He's leading this team. Draymond Jones has 4, Webster has 2, Chubb 2, Reed 1.5, Jewell 1, Ojemudia got 1, Kari Willis and Spencer Johnston just a half of a sack at this point in the season. Interceptions. Here comes my man. Patrick Surtain, 4 of them already this year. He is on pace for a fantastic season. Darby has 2. Simmons has 1. So we only have 7 as a team. Through 9 games, that's okay. But we're not getting a lot of help from, the rest of the crew. Like to see our linebackers maybe come up with 1 or 2 here and there. McManus, 15 of 16. And then 25 for 25 in extra points. And then we don't really care about punting, but he's doing a pretty good job as a rookie. And then we will look at team rankings just real briefly. I don't care too much about the yards. What I want to look at is points per game. So let's go here and see how we're doing. We're towards the bottom of the middle, which is not good. 25, I'd like to see this number come up to like 28 or 29 by the end of the season. So we've got to get a little bit better there, but it's not terrible. Now, defensively, we are the best team in the league as far as total yards allowed. And then for points, we're doing okay. We are 5th in the league. So we're doing a decent job defensively, or offensively, and a good job defensively. We look at sacks. We are sort of middle of the pack, 19. And then fumble recoveries is hard to really influence too much. The Buccaneers have 8. Bunch of teams with 4, and then a bunch of teams with 2, and we're one of those teams. Interceptions, we've got 7, which puts us kind of in the middle of the pack in that category as well. But again, I'm not too worried about the different stat categories. The ones that matter are points, and we're doing okay. Defensively, we're doing really well. Offensively, we're just doing okay. So if we can improve that, we become really dangerous. Let's see. I don't care too much about conversions. Red zone efficiency. How are we doing here? See, this is bad. We're 60%. Although we're 29 for 33, getting some points whenever we enter the red zone, which isn't that bad. Here's where we're struggling. 19 out of 27 being touchdowns when teams get into the end zone or get into the red zone. That's bad. We're 5th worst in the league there. We've only given up 1 field goal in 27 trips to the red zone. But we're 2nd best at keeping people out of the red zone, so there's that. And then penalties, you guessed it, we're best in the league. So that's a pretty good recap of where we are for our midseason situation. Statistically, we've got a really good look at the scouting report. The last thing that we're going to do for the episode is look at standings, because we'll try and get an overall picture of the league in general. The Cowboys 9-1, Jaguars 7-2 is really impressive. We just beat the Patriots, handing them their 2nd loss. But look at this. There are 4 teams in the NFC with 2 or fewer losses. Then you've got the Patriots at 7-2. Broncos are 6-3. The Packers, Chargers, Rams, also all 6-3. Steelers 6-4. So a bunch of teams kind of hovering around that 500 mark, and then here's where it starts to get a little bit dangerous for playoff hopes. The Ravens, Colts, Saints all 3-6. Bears, Bucks, Jets all 3-7. Cardinals 2-8. The Lions and the Raiders 1-8. And the Lions were 0-7 to start the year. I don't understand why the Raiders are so bad. Their offense this year is just atrocious. 153 points. That's got to be worse than the league. Yeah, by 2 touchdowns. That's just really bad. So, anyway, that's a general look around the league. We're in pretty good position at 6-3. Tied with the Chargers for 1st place. The Chiefs are kind of, right on our heels, but they've got 2 extra losses and are due for a bye week. But anyway, that is going to do it for this episode. If you have not done so already, please be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment below, and we'll see y'all next time.
Good evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?